Welcome back to Dad, I Want to Hear Your Story. I think I'm calling it Dad, Tell Me Your Story, but so this is part 4. It's a new week, and I'm currently heading up north to the Central Coast part of California for some work stuff. And what better time than when you have a couple hours alone in the car to start recording and continuing on with the book and getting another chapter done. So this one's called The Teenage Years. And this is a beautiful drive. I wonder if I can. I don't think I can switch the camera around. Maybe I can just lift it up here for a second. Kind of show you what I'm doing. Maybe out the front windshield here. One of the perks to working for the state of California is that I go everywhere, depending on where the work is. And so right now the work is in the Central Coast, and so I am driving up there to give a presentation to the Monterey County Chiefs of Police. So let's talk about the teenage years. How would you describe yourself as a teenager? Oh boy. I was kind of a hellion. So when we're talking teenage years, right? Starting around 12, 13, I really got into skateboarding. I think we've talked about that a little bit before, but that was pretty much my life. I was not a great student, not in my teenage years. Had trouble with just school in general, and I think a lot of it was because I was bored. I didn't want to spend time sitting down and studying. I was an active young person, and I wanted to be out there with my friends, playing, skateboarding, and just living life. So whether you want to call that a blessing or a curse, I was always a very outgoing, still am a very outgoing person, a dominating personality, just kind of command a room. I was always the center of my group of friends, and still to this day, I'm kind of a very type A personality, which probably caused some headaches for my mom and dad. Sorry about that. Rest your souls. And when I was I transferred into La Cañada Elementary from private school at 5th grade. And that's where I met in 5th grade my kind of group of friends that I stuck with pretty much through high school. And I will never forget in the 5th grade, again, you're trying to be cool, you're trying to fit in. I was raised in a very conservative household. My dad was a commander in the Navy. My mom was a business-oriented woman. We didn't throw wild parties. We didn't do, a lot of the things that I think I did in college or my later years. That just wasn't really how we grew up. And so when I got to public school, and I'm not trying to say that the group of friends I got in with were any less of people. That's not the case at all. They were just different, and really enjoyed the sort of instant gratification as opposed to the hard work and reaping the rewards and the benefits in the long haul. So I'll never forget, in 5th grade, I was in science class. So when I went to La Cañada Elementary in 5th grade, it was the first time where I had multiple teachers, right? In elementary school, you normally have one teacher. And in 5th grade, that was the first time where we rotated. So I had a science teacher, Mr. Beamer, who passed away. I actually went to his funeral, I think, when I was in high school. We had a math teacher, and I kind of remember her face, but I don't remember her name. And a social studies teacher, and he was kind of like the cool guy. I think he was in his 40s at the time. Of course, when you're 12 years old, everybody seems like they're 100, but Mr. Berger was his name. Mr. Beamer, Mr. Burger, and then we called her Mrs. Katz, and I forget what she taught. I want to say it was math. Beamer was science. No, maybe the one I can't remember was an English teacher. Anyways, neither here nor there. Trying to fit in with some of the cool kids. An old buddy of mine named Kevin Toohey. We were friends in like 5th and 6th grade, and then I don't know what happened to that guy. I'm sure he went off and did great things, but at the time I really wanted to like impress him, and he was having kind of a rough day, and I forget what was going on, but he was just in a bad mood. So I wrote him a note, 5th grade, and I wrote, "Hey Kev, shit rolls downhill." I don't know if I really knew what that saying meant, but it had a curse word in it, so that was cool, right? And I gave it to Kevin, and it didn't resonate the way I wanted it to. I wanted it to be like a joke, and he would laugh, and maybe it would make him in a better mood. He crumpled it up, and when he crumpled it up, he kind of made a scene, like, have this note. And my teacher, Mr. Beamer, saw it, and he walked over and he unfolded it, and he looked at me, and he said, "Did you write this?" Of course, it says "shit rolls downhill." At the time, being a 5th grader, getting caught using a curse word may have been the most devastating point of my life. He said to me, "This is going to go home with a note." And I was broken. I was terrified. I cried in class. I was thinking that my dad and my mom are never going to let me hear the end of this. I am in so much trouble. I'm never going to see the light of day. Good luck skateboarding. Once this note goes home, I'm going to be in the doghouse. And to Mr. Beamer's credit, he did not send it home. He asked me to stay after class, and then he talked to me about it. He said, "Why'd you write the note?" And I explained what I just explained, and he kind of took it as a teaching moment and just said, "Hey, you need to be mindful of the words that you use and the impact that they have on people." That's funny that you talk about this, right? I think this was in 1998. 1998. Graduated high school in 05. Yeah, let's say 98. And now, fast forward to 2025, I think in elementary school, the language that's used is probably something that would shock the conscience of the average person. But that was my first experience of almost getting in trouble. So you fast forward now to high school, and so there were 3 elementary schools in the town that I grew up in, and they all met. Everybody went to this one public school locking out of high school. I was the class of 2005, and those 4 years were just awesome. I hate to be the guy who says, "Man, I peaked in high school," right? But no, I really had a lot of fun in high school. Not a great student, again, getting C's, B's if I was lucky. I don't know if I got many A's. And there may have been a D here or there, but I passed. And I remember just when I got to school, it wasn't about learning math and English. It was, I want to see my friends, I want to be social, I want to go out and hang out, get through my first 2 periods just so we can go on our little 15-minute break. I used to get my little chicken chimichanga, my little microwave chicken chimichanga, which is delicious. I still get those to this day. And hang out with my friends in the quad. Then it was 2 more classes, just, get through them, right? So I can get back to lunch. And you get 45 minutes. And eventually when I had a license, right, I was old enough to go drive off campus, pick up food and bring it back. And that's really what I live for, that hour and a half each day. And then of course the time before and after school to just hang out with my friends. And to this day, I've always considered myself just a very social person. Whether it's at work, home, family, I like to talk. I like to engage and interact, which has served me well. I got, when we were like 16, I went out in a car with a buddy of mine. His name's Mike, and I won't say his last name, just to protect his identity. And I cannot remember for the life of me why he had it up with this guy, but there was some baseball player. We were wrestlers and football players. We didn't get along with the baseball guys. And for some reason, we didn't get along with this guy. I don't even know what the anger was. I didn't actually know the guy. My buddy Mike knew him. And we went out and we were going to key his car. So stupid. Well, we drove by, we keyed his car, and immediately got caught. Which involved some phone calls to parents and waking people up, and had to work that off that summer to pay for the damage. I can't remember if I was the one keying it or if I was just in the car. I really can't remember, but just something stupid that you do as a 14 or 15-year-old. No, I was 16, I remember, because Mike was driving. Although he was older than me, so I may have been still 15, but I remember participating in that, and that was a very valuable life lesson, that you don't mess with other people's stuff. Never did anything like that again. Like I said, that was a growing point for me to learn that you got to respect the property that people have earned, and respect people just even if you don't agree with them. And like I said, at the time, I didn't really disagree with the guy. I didn't really know who he was. I couldn't tell you his name. My life depended on it. Don't even remember what car it was. Like I said, I don't think I keyed the car. I think I was just there. But, you know, you're all guilty by association, as my dad would say. And I want to say there were 3 of us that night, and all 3 of us got to split the difference on the damage to the car. I don't even know if we actually keyed it, caused any damage. We may have just, you know, pretended. Stupid stuff. But that was me in my teenage years. I spent more time enjoying time with friends, screwing off, than I did with my studies. And so because of that, I you know, the fruits of my labor ended up coming back to me, because I didn't really get into any schools when I applied to go to college. When I was a teenager, we didn't have cell phones the way we do now. I think cell phones were just coming out. We had like the Nokia, the little brick phones. They could call and they could text. And you had a certain number of minutes you could talk on the phone and a certain number of texts. So communication was more done in person and face-to-face. So I spent most of my time just hanging out with friends. We used to go to the United Artists Theater, the movie theater. Like that was like a Friday night thing. We go to the movie theater, see a movie with our friends. And it was, again, it wasn't really about seeing the movie. It was just hanging out. Right across the street from Purdue Hills Hospital. That movie theater still exists. God, I can only imagine what it would be like in the 90s, having a couple hundred of these teenagers storming the theater for the weekend. But that's what we did. Didn't drink, didn't do drugs, wasn't my cup of tea. But skateboarding was mostly my life. We went to skate parks all the time. Vans had a couple of them. There's one in Ontario, one in Oxnard that we used to frequent. There was Skate Lab in Simi Valley. That's since shut down, which was sad because I had a lot of really good memories there. I remember going there in rollerblades one time, and they had a bowl in the back, and a bowl is like an empty pool, right? So it's made of wood. It's not really a pool. They have cement bowls that are like empty pools, but this one was made of wood. And one of my buddies, Matt, he dropped in and he fell. He's wearing wheels on his feet. They're rollerblades. And he couldn't get out. You know, the walls coming up are like 8 feet tall. And none of us could get this dude out. I would drop in, my buddy Nick would drop in. We're just going back and forth trying to tell him, hey dude, just start going back and forth, work your momentum up and jump out of here. He couldn't do it. And I remember my buddy Nick's dad, Mark, he's leaning over trying to grab his arm, and Matt was a big kid. One of those kids who's like, you know, we're 16 at the time, but he looks 20. He's probably 6 foot, 180 pounds. And dude, we're like, how are we going to get Matt out of this thing? We're going to have to call the fire department here pretty soon to get him out. But those are just some of my memories, just hanging with friends, skateboarding, and kind of just being a little rebel, you know, with a cause. How did you dress and style your hair in your teens? So again, late 90s, early 2000s, the style was very baggy jeans, you know, sagging it. So my jeans would be underneath my butt cheeks, and my boxer briefs would be hanging out, what was the point of a belt? But you had to have a belt. Usually the belt was extra long, so like the end of the belt would hang out and flop down. I don't even know how else to explain it. Backwards hats, that used to kill my dad. He's like, what's the point of your hat being backwards? It's supposed to block the sun out of your face. Couldn't tell you, Dad. That's just how we wore it. Baggy shirts, all skateboarding companies, Shorties, Girl, Bird Industries. There was the one with the fire, Flame Flame Boy versus the water guy. And I can't remember the name of that company, but those Vans, Volcom. These are stores that I think are still around, or maybe they're gone. I don't know. Did a lot with the local skate shops wearing their gear too. And for hair, when it was not under a hat, it was spiked. I bleached my hair, bleach blonde hair tips in like 6th grade. I think it was 1999, as was the style at the time. Liberty spikes. Mohawks, like the Mohawks. 9/11/2001, I remember specifically that day. That was 9/11. I had bright blue hair. I dyed my hair the night before and was doing a mohawk of bright blue hair to go to school. I think there's a picture of me with it somewhere, if you can find it. That'd be a gem. Woke up to my dog at the time. His name was Peanut. It was a chocolate lab. I don't know what was in the hair dye that he liked, but he was just licking my hair. So he had like licked a spot clean of the blue, and it was still my blonde hair. My hair has darkened over time. I had blonde hair growing up. It's still kind of blonde. And I had to re-dye my hair. And I'm doing that as my mom is screaming from the kitchen because the planes had hit the towers. Jewelry, right? Just your 90s, early 2000s gear. The little puka shells, the leather bands with the studs. That was very like punk era. That's what I wore. Did you hang out with a group or just a few close friends? And are you still close to any of them? We've already talked about that. It was a big group. I've always been, I just love big groups. I have my core group of friends. I've still maintained touch with a lot of them. And as we've all kind of progressed through life together, and obviously we're all the same age, so we're at different life points in our lives together. Having kids, most of our kids are very similar in age. So now our kids hang out together, and I still see my boys and my friends. And in the last year or so, since COVID ended, because COVID really did a number on everyone's relationships. We tried for a while to do this thing where we would meet online, like that Zoom, and do online games together just to stay social. But now that COVID's over, kids are getting a little older, I've really kind of rekindled a lot of those relationships, and I go out with my friends and bring my kids along. We do play dates. And that's a core group. And kids, that's another piece of advice for you. Focus on the relationships that matter. Because I can tell you, I had 20 plus friends that I would hang out with in high school. After high school, I may have hung out with maybe 10 of them. Maybe more than 20, honestly. Got down to about 10 in college that were kind of local to the hometown. And now it's probably like 3 or 4 that I still keep in touch with. Describe a typical Friday or Saturday night during your high school years. Well, early on, it was, like I said, going out with friends, doing sleepovers, going out, running amok in the town, skateboarding until the wee hours. Late nights, going out with friends. And then my dad, I think I was around 14 years old, he met my stepmom, your step-grandmother, Wendy. And when they started dating, I got introduced to her brother, Rick. And Rick played a video game called World of Warcraft. And he got me into computer gaming. And that changed everything. Then it was Fridays and Saturdays was on the computer. The internet was a thing, playing video games. And I still play video games to this day with friends. Thanks, Rick. That was sort of a paradigm shift. The late nights out with friends to gaming online. Did you have a curfew? Not really, no. I was on a very loose leash. It's wild that I ended up not getting into more shenanigans. Like I said, little minor things that I did that were stupid or got in trouble with friends, but nothing that was more than just, hey, you're grounded. I think the worst thing I ever did in my life was being a part of that group that keyed the car. That was a whole summer of being grounded. We're lucky that we just got to pay for the damage. But other than that, I didn't really get into too much trouble. We used to have concerts on the weekends at the little community center in La Cañada. And we would go to those. No, I did not really have a curfew. And it's wild because knowing that I have kids, I don't know how my parents let us get away with that. Did you date during your high school years? Yeah. First girlfriend that was really a girlfriend was was a young lady named Lauren Deutsch. We dated for a couple months, then we broke up. And I want to say that was like freshman year of high school, maybe sophomore year. And then I dated a girl named Hannah Minter. And Hannah and I dated for like 2 or 3 years. Pretty much all of high school I dated Hannah. And we were kind of like high school sweethearts. Of course, went out to college and went our separate ways. I don't keep in touch with either one of them now. But that was really my high school sweethearts. Just girlfriends, nothing more. And went to all the dances. Didn't really have to go through the whole, oh, am I going to ask somebody to do a dance? Because I pretty much had a girlfriend to some extent in my high school years. Did you go to any school dances? What were they like? Well, we just talked about that. Yeah, I loved school dances. Are you kidding me? I remember having such a great time going to the dances. I was just a social guy, getting out there, being with friends. And I remember either sophomore or junior year, maybe in senior year, I can't remember what year, but somewhere in high school, I went out with Hannah, who was my girlfriend at the time, and it was either homecoming or junior prom or some sort of dance, the winter formal, I cannot remember, but it was on the Queen Mary in Long Beach on the boat. And as you walk into the dance sort of foyer, there's like a stairway leading down to the dance floor, but you came in on like an upper deck and then you had to go down these stairs. And there was a line, because everyone's trying to get in, there was a line of kids lined up, and as we're coming down the stairs, Hannah and I are on the stairs, and Hannah, she was a developed young woman, and there was a guy by the name of Duke, and I can't remember Duke's last name, but Duke was a bad boy. Everyone thought he was in a gang. I mean, the kid was from La Cañada. No way he was in a gang. But he leans over the railing, because he's up on the walkway above, and he makes a comment about Hannah and her chest being out. So it's like, nice tits, Hannah, or something to that effect. And I was like defending her honor. I climbed up, I'm on the stairway, I climbed up a banister and I think some hanging curtains or something. I don't know. I climbed like 2 stories up, grabbed Duke by his collar and pulled him over the edge and said, "What'd you say to my girl? You apologize for that remark." And he did. I feel like a hero. Always defend your woman's honor. And never let anybody treat you the way you wouldn't want to be treated. Never let anyone treat your family the way you wouldn't want to be treated. Respect is earned, but absolutely you need to make sure people know they have to respect you. Who taught you to drive and what kind of car? I learned how to drive in a 1988 Volkswagen Jetta. It was a 5-speed transmission. I bought it for $800. So I was older in my group. So I turned 16 prior to a lot of my friends turning 16. And so I got my license, but there wasn't really a reason to get a car because none of my other friends had cars. And I wanted to ride my bike or skateboard or whatever with my friends. So it wasn't until, I want to say, 2004, maybe 2003, maybe sophomore year, when other people started getting their licenses. And a friend of mine named Austin Brady, he got a 1990 IROC Camaro. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool, I want a car. Except for I couldn't afford an IROC Camaro. I could afford a 1988 Volkswagen Jetta. And so that's what I got. 2 of the doors didn't work. Driver's side door didn't work. The rear passenger side door didn't work. So everyone had to come in on the driver's side in the back seat and slide over. I had to climb over the passenger side to get into the driver's seat. We ended up getting it fixed, but I bought it from Wendy, your grandmother, my stepmom. We bought it from one of her co-workers. And I think I paid $800 for it. That car was a bucket. But that was my first car, and we did a major upgrade from that because after my 1980, first let's talk about learning how to drive. My dad taught me how to drive, and a lot of it was self-taught. The age of kids playing video games, like my kids, they play on those little simulators with steering wheels already. I mean, they're going to be able to drive when they're 16, no problem. So I don't really know if I ever had a sit-down session where my dad was in the car and we learned how to drive. I just kind of learned. Learning how to drive stick in a car worth $800 that was built like a tank so it could never break. It was perfect. I was able to shift flawlessly in that. That car you actually could shift without using the clutch if you timed it right. I love that car. Nick Creasy and I took a home stereo, took it apart, rebuilt it in a box, put it in the trunk of that car, and I had a car with a subwoofer. The car was a pile of just bolts. I don't even know what we did to get rid of that car, honestly. My dad probably got rid of it because I upgraded about a year later to a 1970 Chevy Nova that I paid $5,000 for. It had a gas tank leak, had drum brakes. That was also a 5-speed. I love manual cars. I love shifting, stick shift. My 67 Chevelle that I have now is a 4-speed. I love it. And didn't have air conditioning, didn't have a stereo, barely had seatbelts. That car was a death trap, leaking fuel. I mean, the fact that I survived is wild. And that was my experience with cars growing up. How old were you when you got your first car? What kind of car was it? I feel like I just answered that question. But yeah, I was closer to 17, and it was a 1989 or 88 Volkswagen Jetta. What school activities or sports did you play? I did football freshman year. Did not like football. I enjoyed the hitting part without the pads. The pads I didn't like. They're just uncomfortable. Did it for like freshman year. Wasn't my cup of tea. Discovered wrestling. I loved wrestling. Wrestled freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. Was varsity wrestling. Have medals somewhere from that. God, if I still have them. I didn't get into it as much as my brothers. Chris and David really got into wrestling. I'm sure Daniel did too. I was just out of high school. I was in the college at that point. But they went to all the camps, J-Rob. They went to CIF, the championships, league, division, state. I did not. I wrestled in the league championships, which is like the lowest level. And I was a bigger guy, so I wrestled in like the 185 class, 192s my senior year. And I did that with Nick and Adam. And wrestling was awesome. The reason why I like wrestling as a sport, yeah, it's dangerous. Yeah, you get hurt. People get hurt. I get that. But one, it's a team sport, so you learn to be on a team, right? Your effort makes the difference on whether the team succeeds or not. But at the same time, it's an individual sport. So you get points based on your performance, right? It's one-on-one. You go into that ring, there's nobody else to rely on. It's you in there. And you go toe-to-toe with somebody who's equally as impressive as you, and it's an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. And it's like a fight. And we used to always know, so if you lost by points, the other team got 3 points to their overall score. If you got pinned, they got 6 points. So the idea was never give up, even if you're losing. And I had some tough matches where I had a bloody nose, I was getting punched in the face, I was hurt, I didn't want to continue, I was tired. But I knew if I gave up, if I didn't do all 3 rounds, all 3 2-minute rounds, that team was going to get 6 points. So not only, I knew I was going to lose the individual match that one time. I won a lot of matches, but I was going to lose this one. And I remember this guy was just better than me. He was stronger. He was better trained. He was more technically savvy. And I was going to lose, but I was not going to give up. And I just remember thinking, keep your shoulders off the ground, don't get pinned. And this guy dragged me around the mat, and I did it for all 3 rounds, and I didn't get pinned. And even though I lost the match on the individual level, our team won that competition because we didn't give up 6 points. We won by under 6 points. And if I'd given up that pin, I would have lost. Never give up. Even when you're on your back, even when the other person's got you in a guard or they've got you in a mount and they're straddling you and they're pummeling you, never give up. The moment you give up, you're dead. Like, wrestling was my favorite sport in high school. Dabbled, played a lot of baseball, soccer, basketball early years, but when it came to actual high school or collegiate athletics, it was wrestling. Went on to college, didn't have a formal wrestling team, but we did wrestle for fun. In college, I played intramural basketball because that's what everyone else was doing. Again, I was social, right? Get out with your friends, throw some hoops, play some ball. And what did you like and dislike about high school? So that was my sports. I loved high school. What did I like? Zero responsibility, no bills, nothing to worry about, no true stress, right? It's all self-induced, although I always say that every stress in life is just self-induced, right? There's no real life stresses unless you let it get to you. So I'm not a real stress guy. I loved my friends, the social interaction. It's why I have always said, well, I disagree with a lot of what schools teach kids nowadays. And so a lot of people wonder why I don't homeschool my kids. I think that social engagement is so important. I think it's equally as important as learning math, science, and English. So I loved being with friends and not having a care in the world. What did I dislike about high school? Not much. That it ended. I had to go off to college, which was fun. College was also fun. I had some great times in college. What were your grades like? Not great. We already talked about that. Did you have a favorite subject and a least favorite subject? Well, in ninth grade, I was in a psychology class that was taught by my wrestling coach. So that was my favorite subject because it was taught by my wrestling coach. But I've always been interested in science. Terrible, not great grades because I just wasn't focused, but science has interested me. Geology, chemistry, physics. The physical sciences have been a very big interest of mine. The social sciences too, anthropology, took that in college. That interested me. Anything where I can get my hands on stuff, so social interactions, auto shop, that was fun. Math, I did not do well in math. I'm not a very math-oriented person. The numbers thing, regular math was fine. Once you got to like algebra 2, trigonometry, I was lost. I don't even think I actually passed that class. That may have been my first F. Few favorite songs from your high school years. Anything by Blink-182. Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. That was the album that came out like right in my high school years. That defined my high school generation. Green Day, loved Green Day. Fall Out Boy. Newfound Glory. Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, although that may have been college, it may have been a little later, I can't really remember. Panic at the Disco. I mean, just alternative punk, pop, alternative rock, that was my genre. And I still listen to it to this day. In fact, as soon as we finish this video, I'm going to be putting some on and listening to some Panic. Maybe some Blink too, because I loved it. Okay, knowing yourself now, what advice would you give to your teenage self? What might you have done differently if you knew what you know now? I would not have gotten into the video games if I could go back and do it again. You don't have a lot of time. Life is short and it comes at you fast. And before you know it, in the blink of an eye, you're middle age. I'm 38 years old. I'm in my late 30s. 40 is creeping up upon me. I have 3 kids. They're, starting school, and things that I remember doing as a kid that feel like yesterday are decades ago. And things that I feel like I did as a young adult are now decades ago. Memories that I had, time just goes really fast. So make your time meaningful. I once heard a saying, own the dash, right? You got a start date. Everyone knows their start date. It's my birthday, November 1986. That was my start date. I don't know my end date, but I do have an end date. Everyone has an end date. And those are your 2 dates. But in the middle is that dash. Own the dash. I forget which social media influencer I followed. Some military guy or something said that. But it's true. Make your time meaningful. Wasting away playing stupid video games. Now I get it. If you've got time to burn, I got young kids. I can't go out with friends. I got to be home. I don't really have anything else to do. But spend it with the people you love. Spend it making memories. Travel when you can. Sign up for adventures and experiences. I didn't even talk about youth and government, but that was some of the most fun that I had in high school was the YNG. Youth and government was put on by the YMCA. We traveled to Sacramento, did a mock assembly and Senate, trial court, appellate court. That was some of the most fun I ever had in high school. Go do those things. Not Scary Farm. We used to do that as high school kids. Anytime you can travel, anytime you can go on field trips, anytime you can sign up for adventures, kids, I promise you, we will sign up for those. In fact, I might sign up as a chaperone, not to watch over you kids. I want you to go off and do great things. I want you to experience life. I want you to make mistakes. That's how you're going to learn. But I just want to go back again because it was really fun. And nowadays, you don't have time to do all that stuff. I have time to record these videos as I'm driving from one place at work to the next place at work because time just goes really fast. And one day you're going to wake up and look back and say, wow, did my dash have meaning? Did what I do make a difference? Be kind. I was very self-absorbed, probably still am, in high school, and did not see other people's points of view or opinions. And I think that would have made me a more well-rounded person. So, not that I don't like where I ended up. I love who I am and love my life, but just saying, if I'm giving you advice, be kind, be empathetic, care about those, spend your time doing meaningful things, and never say no. Always sign up, always try something new, always have an adventure. Stick to your commitments. That is the defining characteristic of a Wyatt. When you sign up for something, it doesn't always mean it's going to be sugars and sunshine. Right? There's going to be tough roads ahead. You're always going to have tough times in anything you do, whether it's a sport, whether it's academics, whether it's some sort of social group. There will be times you feel like giving up, you feel like failing, and you feel like you can't go on. That is when we strap on our shoes, we tie up our laces tight, and we buckle down and we try twice as hard. You never give up. People depend on you, and you have to be successful. And you will be if you don't quit. The only time you are not successful is if you quit. Anyone will tell you. You have 1,000 failures, and all it was another time where you learned something to do better. And you need to get it right once, and you're successful. It's okay if you fail. You're just learning. It's okay to screw up. It's okay to make mistakes. And sometimes you're going to hurt people. Forgive yourself, but ask for forgiveness. Own your mistakes, take responsibility, and grow. Don't blame somebody else. Don't pass the buck. Don't say it was because of someone else's actions that you failed. I don't like that shit. I don't like hearing that in my work. I don't like hearing that in my social interactions. Everyone's got someone to blame. Don't be a victim. No one's going to victimize you unless you let them victimize you. Be a successful human being, and you can do it. And ask for help if you need help. It's okay to need help. It's okay. I need help sometimes. That's why I got your mom. Your mother is the glue that holds this entire family together. That's why I let her go out. I pay for 2 vacations a year. She goes with her friends up to Lake Nacimiento, and she doesn't have to deal with kids for 2 days. That's the reward she gets for being the absolute keystone to our family. And that's it. And one other little memory that just popped up. We're talking about youth and government. Camp Bob was on a military base. We stayed in bunkers. I don't even know what the point of going was, except for I was with friends and the autonomy they give you, right? You're setting your own schedule. You're going to classes. I mean, they're treating you like a college student in high school. I am 17, maybe 18 years old with a schedule, and I had to get myself to different locations in this military compound, this installation. But just that camaraderie. When you do those tough things and you do tough things with other people, the memories you make, the bonds you have, that's something you're going to have forever, and no one can ever take that away from you. Those are memories that are in here, core memories, and no one else remembers them but me. But man, I had so much fun. To the La Cañada La Crescenta YMCA Youth and Government Program from 2002 to 2005. Y'all were stars, man. You made adventure and experience that I still remember to this day. 20 years later. But that's it. This is a longer video. I'll put the book down. I'm going to continue on driving to work. Here, take a look at my view. Not bad, huh? Could be worse. The only thing I'm missing is my family. I do miss you guys, and I hope you know that. When I have to do these long travels, these trips for work, I think of you kids, I think of you, my wife, all the time, and I miss you guys. So I love you. I will love you to the day I die. I will love you, and I tell you why. You were right for me, you were made for me, and I will love you. What would I do if our love wasn't true? You're all that I need, so believe me when I say I will love you. I love you to the moon, Jonathan, Nikki, Evie, Casey, Cooper, Rosie, Maverick. It's our 2 dogs and our cat. I do love you, I promise. You drive me crazy, but I love you. I will see you guys next time. Bye.